Oh, hey there, it's Thursday, specifically Thirsty Thursday. We're going to drink some delicious craft beer today. We're going to talk to some sporting types and maybe even a little bit of rugby league. To my left, trying to get an endorsement, fresh off a marathon, Brendan Bradford. Ran a marathon on Sunday with no training, as you do.
Finished the marathon. And that's it.
Me today, I've decided to go with my Kaiju beer jumper. I love beer merch, trying to keep local alive. So that's the one thing I did today.
Delicious beer too.
Delicious beer, didn't run a marathon, unfortunately. So how it's going to run today, we're going to have a little bit of beer. We're going to talk to the fantastic Ben Damon about the Tim Tszyu, Jeff Horn fight, which I'm very much looking forward to. He's in the middle of that, and the negotiations, I believe.
Yeah, well, the fight's done now, so we can finally start talking about it, get hyped about it, which is why I'm wearing my Everlast shirt today. It's my fight hype apparel.
Fight hype.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting stuck into this delicious beer as well.
Tell us about it. What are we working with today?
So this is Bent Spoke. It's a Bent Spoke. It's the Sprocket. My favourite brewery in Australia. I'm telling you, it's so good. Every beer they have is good. The Crankshaft is probably my favourite beer at the moment, but we're drinking the Sprocket today. Raiders Roosters tonight, so the green machine, up the milk. Let's crack into it.
Should we crack into it?
Yeah.
So I also love Bent Spoke. So a little bit of history. It's got started by the fantastic Richard Watkins. You look in terms of popularity for it. So you had the Crankshaft, which is one of your favourites. It's like number 3 for the last 2 or 3 years. In the Gabba's Hottest 100. You've got the Barley Griffin, their pale ale, which is again amazing. And then the Sprocket. This is actually my favourite. And it tastes like, well, I did use Happiness last week, but it's more of an explosion. I love it. Technically it's an IPA and we're drinking it out of a can because...
So sue us.
Product placement.
Come at me.
But a bit of passion fruit, a bit of...
Really sharp, really...
Happiness?
Yeah.
Happiness, do we say?
Yeah, well, it hits you, and it hits you perfectly. A comforting, nice afternoon beverage.
Do you buy into well, I don't even know if it's theory, maybe it's possibly true, that because there's like the massive sea that takes off pretty much the entire top.
Oh, I love
that. Gives it more air, and apparently makes it taste better.
Oh, science.
Yeah, a little bit of science there.
I didn't know that. You probably can't see on the thing, but you take the whole top off. It's all just like a... I love the Bent Spoke branding. I love that the top comes off. It all feeds into it. It is happiness.
It is absolutely delicious.
And it can.
Canberra's going through a bit of a kind of craft beer renaissance at the moment. Obviously you got Bent Spoke doing amazing. You got Capital, which is just down the road. You got a few different ones in Fishwick. I'm almost going to call it the second beer capital of Australia.
Yeah, I'd go for that. And fast approaching, overtaking number 1. But I mean, yeah.
All things good. No, hype it up. I like it. Which rugby league player would this beer be, especially from tonight? So I'm going to lead off, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
I was originally going to go with Emery Gula because, and I can to attest to this beer goes excellent with a kebab. Emery Gula's old man, one of the great rugby league stories for the Raiders players, makes kebab stands for the trip home. Like, what a great way to buy friends and influence people, I think. Definitely can be bribed by kebabs. But unfortunately, he's not playing tonight. So I'm going to go with Mitch Orbison from the Roosters. 300-game player, slightly overshadowed by other people. So you look at this beer, it's kind of overshadowed by the Barley Griffin, by the Crankshaft, even a little bit by maybe the Cluster 8. So it fits it that way. Super powerful, 7%. Also a little bit silky. Yeah?
Dependable.
Yeah, dependable.
He's there when you need him.
Super dependable.
Pre-season, off-season. 70th minute of a grand final, wherever you need him, he'll slot in, he'll plug a gap, he'll do whatever you need. It's only week 2, but I'm breaking the rules here. So not necessarily if this beer was a player, but I'm just want to give a shout out to Josh Hodgson because one of the cult figures of the Raiders and of the NRL over the last couple of years. Season-ending ACL injury last week. It's just horrible to see. Not the first time he's done it either. So I just, hopefully he's all good and hopefully doesn't derail the season for the Raiders too much. So Josh Hodgson, here's to you. And a nice little side note, which I didn't realise until researching into this beer. Like you say, it's number 2 craft beer and approaching number 1, but just over a century ago, Canberra was dry. It was prohibition in the ACT.
Yeah, right.
And I did not know that. And it seems wild to me that in Australia, of all places, the capital no less, no beer, prohibition for 17 years.
That would have been a good time to like smack the table. In Australia? All right, so should we get down to a little bit of fight chats?
Yeah, let's do it.
Beautiful.
We're joined now by boxing commentator and host Ben Damon. I mean, if you've listened to boxing podcasts, he's on most of them in Australia. He's also heavily involved in this Jeff Horn versus Tim Tszyu fight. Ben, thanks for joining us today, mate.
Yeah, good to be talking to you, Brendan and Chris. Very exciting this week. We got to finally re-announce this fight. So that was the third official launch press conference that we've had so far for Jeff Horn against Tim Tszyu. Hopefully this time it sticks because, we need a fight, don't we, after all this time, all this waiting and all this messing around. And it's a good one as well.
Mate, because there's so many sports which have been cancelled, obviously this fight kind of sells itself already. But for a filthy casual like myself, what makes this fight so important? What's the big selling point for it?
Yeah, this is a really important fight because you have sort of the established hero of Australian boxing, even though a lot of people, for some reason, don't like Jeff Horn. He's the man in Australian boxing. He's been there and done that. He's a former champion of the world. Of course, he beat Manny Pacquiao in probably the greatest boxing event in Australian history, which involved an Australian boxer. And he's gone overseas. He knocked out Anthony Mundine in a round. He had that epic pair of fights last year with Michael Zarafa. He's established himself as a big name, but Tim Tszyu, he's got a big surname. Kostya Tszyu was a superstar, one of the greatest boxers ever from any part of the world, and Tim's his son, and he's been making his way as a professional fighter. 15 fights so far. He's won all of them. He's knocked out 11 opponents, but this is the big test. This is where we get to see just how good he is. So it's either a fight where the baton is passed from one to the next, or it's a fight where Jeff Horn gets to say, no, I'm not done. And at 32 years of age, we get to see if he makes another run at a world title, because realistically, the winner of this fight could have a world title fight in their very next bout. So it's huge for the fighters. It's huge for Australian boxing because we haven't had a bout for so long, and it's a stadium fight as well. And it's huge for Australian sport because when there is a big fight that divides opinion, people sort of fall into it. People get excited, and this has all the potential of being one of those sorts of fights. It's got the state of origin element as well. And just because there's not much going on in terms of combat sports, particularly in Australia at the moment, so it adds a little bit more. But at any time, this is a really significant fight. So we're all pretty excited about it, and it's a good one to kick us back off.
We saw the press conference up in Townsville on Monday earlier this week, and there was a little bit of spice there. I mean, these guys are two pretty laid-back dudes, and back in March they were quite cordial with each other, but there was a little bit of tension, I sort of sense brewing there. Like, what was it like being at that press conference, and is there a bit of heat building between these two guys?
Yeah, it did feel that way, Brendan, certainly because you mentioned that press conference back in March, and even the one earlier where we just announced that the fight was taking place in Sydney. They were very friendly, too friendly. I don't like that. I prefer if there's a little bit of animosity back and forth, and there is a bit of feeling. But certainly in that Sydney one, they were sitting around together chatting about other fights and stuff, and I was like, this is not what you're meant to be doing, fellas. Let's pull up on that. And then we went to Townsville, and they were quite friendly again, but you could tell there was a little bit of an edge from the Tim Tszyu camp. More particularly, he sort of was starting to get himself into the space for the fight. But then on Monday just gone, it was Jeff Horn who picked it up and ran with it. He was pretty adamant that Tim Tszyu doesn't deserve to be there. It's just his surname that's got him into this fight. And he said that and a number of other things. So you could tell that Tim, I don't know what he was feeling, but he seemed a little bit tense at this press conference that we had on Monday. Maybe there's a few things going on behind the scenes that they're not particularly happy with, but certainly it's developed that extra edge. You could just tell the way they were speaking about each other. I spent a bit of time with each of them before the press conference, and we're on flights together and the like on the way back, and even hosting the press conference and firing the questions at them. You could just sense that, it's starting to build up. And I think once we get closer and we get into fight week, with the pressure that these two have been under for so long now, with lockdown and everything else that's been going on in their lives, it's really going to get to that point where by the way in, they'll be going at each other. In the fight, they're going to just charge and try and make a statement in this fight, not just win it, but try and do something really big, because they know everyone is watching, not just in Australia, but around the world, and they want to establish themselves as having a big next chapter in their boxing careers.
We talk boxing, we talk rugby league. I mean, there's rumours, or I think it's happening, or what, I don't know where it is at this stage, but Paul Gallen versus Mark Hunt is the next one, I suppose, the next cab off the rank after Horn Zoo. Is that fight happening?
Every indication is that fight is happening. It's been something that we've been working on for quite a while. It was very close just prior to the world shutting down. But now we're waiting again to see if it can all be finalised and then announced. But it's something that would carry a lot of interest. Obviously, Mark Hunt is a global star from what he's done in the UFC, has a boxing and kickboxing background as well, and he's no doubt at all the superior combat sports person. But Paul Gallen, an incredibly fit man, a supreme rugby league player, and someone who we've seen in his professional career so far, has a lot of the abilities that you need to succeed as a heavyweight, because he's so fit, he can keep going, he can take a shot. And if you're not as fit as him, even though you might be better, he's going to continue to go in and try and wear you down. So that's what gives him a chance in a fight against Mark Hunt, given that Mark Hunt is getting on in years as well. So, it's an interesting fight. I haven't seen Hunt for a while. I don't know how hard he's training. I don't know where he's at in his preparation, or if he's waiting to see if this is finalised before he really knuckles down. But no doubt at all, Paul Gallen will be training hard. So, I think we will see that fight. And I reckon that it's going to be one that a lot of Australia, or a mainstream audience too, decides to tune into, because you just want to see if that left hook of Mark Hunt can connect, and if it can't, what Paul Gallen can do, because he's going to be willing to go all night, but if he gets put to sleep, he won't be able to do that.
The other element of Thursday obviously is drinking a few beers, and understand you're getting into the business. You're getting into the brewery or beverage business.
A beer baron.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I am. I've got one here actually. Very excited to be a part of the Glebe Brewing Co. I've seen you, Brendan, in a couple of the Glebe Rugby League home games at Wentworth Park, one of my favourite sporting venues in Australia. Not only the Greyhounds race there, but also one of the foundation NRL clubs, or rugby league clubs, New South Wales rugby league clubs in Glebe. Dirty Reds used to play out of that very venue, and now they do play in the lower grades again after being brought back by one of my really good mates, Darren Flynn, in recent years. So as sort of a fundraising effort off to the side of the Glebe Dirty Reds, the Glebe Brewing Co. has been launched, of which I'm a part. And in a few weeks, the first of our beers will be going to market in a couple of pubs around the place, and certainly in cans everywhere. And I'll be sending you boys some, no doubt at all. But I've got it here, the first of them, which is a pale ale, and it is outstanding. And the second will be a lager. So really exciting. I think that probably every self-respecting Australian male would like to own some part of a beer company. So when the opportunity came along, I certainly couldn't pass it up. I've had horses and had greyhounds, but until you've had a beer, I don't think you're really trying. So it's really exciting. Only a few weeks away, and we'll have probably a dozen or so launches, I would imagine. You'll be seeing the beer around the place. Ben Damon, thanks for joining us on the second episode of Thirsty Thursday. Ben Damon, boxing commentator, beer baron, and racing mogul. Thank you, brother. Thanks for joining us. Thanks a lot, fellas. Great to chat to you. Enjoy your beers. Talk to you soon.
Massive thanks to Ben Damon. Always good to have him on. He's got a million and one stories, many of which can't be told, unfortunately. But that'll be us for this week. Episode 2 will be back next Thursday. For tonight, who do you like?
I'm going Raiders, upset.
Oh,
straight in.
Yeah, right.
Upset, yeah. The week they had last week against the Storm, I thought they were dudded. Honestly, I thought they were dudded with that, the sin binning. I'm going Raiders, sentimental value.
Okay. I'm a coward, so I'm going to go Roosters 1-12. Good luck. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.